In this second video, we're going to work on taking one of these images and using it as a reference image in Maya. I want you guys get confident and know the process for that. So in PureRef, you can hit spacebar. It will make any image, whatever you're grabbing, larger. And so I'm grabbing this one. It's probably the flattest image that we can have. And when you take photos, even with your camera or your iPhone or anything like that, you're going to see curvature with this. This is just going to give us some guidelines on like where these ridges are, how wide these ridges are when we go into the modeling phase. But I want to definitely use this. And so I'm just going to hit Command Control Shift 4. All right, again, Command Control Shift 4, and on a PC it may be something else. So you can see the little bullseye. You may not be able to see it, but I am grabbing that, and we're going to go into Photoshop. That should remember what that is, and we're going to go ahead and save as, and we'll go ahead start something called a underscore oil drum. I keep calling it oil can. All right, oil drum. Okay, and we're gonna call this front. If I can spell right, can. All right, and we're gonna do this as a JPEG. Well, maybe just save it as PSD for right now. All right, so let's do that again. We're gonna go ahead and save as. Let's see if it gives us a different options. Nope. All right, so I guess we export as, and we'll rinse and repeat this. And I want it as a JPEG. Again, it's pretty big, but our Maya should be able to support it with the computers that we have in the lab. So I'm gonna hit export, and we're gonna go ahead and hit save. Later. All right. So we're going to go ahead and open up Maya. And I don't think this is the latest Maya I'm opening. And I think it's the same one in the DOS. This is 2022. There's a 2023, which I did have on my computer. I don't think there's much difference, but sometimes with the latest version will act quirky. All right. So you can fast forward if you want. This is taking a while to open, so we can go ahead and hit new. All right, so if you've never used Maya before, this is the perspective, and if you don't know, option with your 3 mouse button, your right will zoom in and out, and the middle will oscillate, and left will kind of move it around. All right, so we want to hit spacebar really quickly, and we're going to go to our front view. Okay, so you can see it on the very bottom here, front view. And we want to put our image in here. So we're going to go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. And we're going to go to our desktop, desktop. All right, I'll go all the way down here, all the stuff. Okay. And we're going to use our JPEG, not PSD. I think PSD will work. Sometimes in the past, Maya didn't allow that. All right, so we have our oil can in here. And, you know, hit space bar. You can go ahead and save. I'll save here in a little bit. You should probably get used to that. We'll talk about that a little bit. So we'll go ahead and save the scene. And see a whole bunch of garbage here on my desktop, sorry. And oil, underscore drum. Okay, if you do a really horrible job, you can always borrow my file, probably have it on Canvas. All right, so every so often I'll tell you guys to do increment save, and what that means is hit this. And so every time you hit this, it'll do oil underscore drum, and then underscore 1, and then 2, 3, 4. And that way, if Maya crashes, which it's prone to do, especially if you're working for 2 hours. It's always good to save just in case it crashes. All right, so this is a very, very simple model. We're literally just going to create a cylinder. So we're going to do a Polygon cylinder. And we're going to pull it out so we can see it. So we can see it in the front. And you can see not a lot of action here. We do want to make it light, but I want to add some more here. We could have done it when we created this, and we could have told how many subdivisions we wanted, but you can also do it here. And you can only do it here at the very beginning. So once you start cutting it and stuff like that, you won't have any of these abilities to do that. All right, so we're going to add the subdivisions to this later. So we're going to keep this very, very simple. Let's do 32 for good luck. All right, so the more geometry you add to it, the heavier it's going to be. So if we're thinking for anything, we want to make this light. So especially for if we're thinking about a game, we want to keep this as light as possible. We don't want it heavy. All right, so we're going to move this into position. All right. And you can already see that warping of the image. You can see on the top and the bottom. So it just is not exact science. So we're just trying to ballpark it. I think we'll start to understand this is a oil drum in a little bit. All right, so once we got our object in there, we're going to hold the shift and right click. And we want to use something called the Insert Edge Loop Tool. All right, so I'm holding it down, holding shift and my right button. And your first couple days in Maya and doing all this, your brain's going to be fried, but just go slowly and try to figure out what these hotkeys are. All right, so we're going to use that image. So you can see me clicking on there. So I just got it in the center here. And I'm going to do another one just above it. Okay. And I want to do one right here. All right, so these are kind of my ridges. And, you know, hopefully someone will do some research and we'll figure out what these ridges are. My guess is for strength, and so it makes the oil drum a little bit stronger so it doesn't collapse is my guess. But hopefully someone does some research and figures out what that is. You'll get to see the video and how that's done. It's pretty exciting how that's done. All right, so we're going to go to right click, hold onto the object, and we're going to go to edge. And I can triple click on it and it will select it all. I hit R. And that is, hopefully you guys know how to use this already with the introduction to 3D. So we're going to just move this out. And then we're going to move this out too. All right, we are going to add a little bit more geometry because I don't know how this is going to behave when we soften the edges. So I like to add a little bit more geometry. So we're going to go Enter Edge Loop again. And we're just going to add just to the top and bottom. All right, we really want this to curve and be smooth, but we also kind of want this as a sharper line here. So we're going to just add this geometry. And you'll see what I mean by this, because right now if we look at it, it's kind of faceted. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's a, we just want to make sure it looks ideal when we go to a smooth look to it. All right, I go to object mode, and again, right click, hold, and go to edge, vertex, and all these modes. All right, so we're going to do something different this time. We're going to go to face mode, and you can see as I roll over, it's selecting the faces. And we want to do a marquee. That's with the left mouse button and click and hold. And we're going to hit shift, click and hold, and you'll see in the perspective view, if we go in here, let's go ahead and go into perspective. That's probably easier. Okay, again, using your option key, you can move around with your middle to zoom in and out. Also, you can hit F to kind of center that geometry that we have selected. All right, so we're going to hit shift, hold, and right mouse, and we're going to hit extrude face. All right, and we're going to hit R, so it goes in the center here. And we're going to pull this out. And we're going to hit G. That'll do the last thing that we just did. And I'm going to pull this up. All right, and all we're doing is if we go back to pure, is making this ridge. All right, it's very, very small. We're probably overdoing it. No, it looks pretty good. All right, when I hit G again, hit R, and I'm going to squeeze it in. And you can see where it's starting to look faceted. So if we looked at this, in a game engine, we could probably see that looks pretty bad. All right, so I'm going to not push this down. I'm going to hit G one more time, hit W, and I'll push this down. All right, so that's my oil can ridge, and you'll see when they're welding it what that looks like. It's basically they're rolling flat steel and creating this. All right, so we're going to go back to oil drums. We're going to look at oil drums tops, and hopefully it'll show us what these look like. Okay, so if we look at this, it is basically a hex nut here and a circle here. We're not going to do the hex nut. We're going to keep this very simple because I don't want to model too much, but we're going to create kind of this cylinder and then pop it up. All right, so I've thought about how to do this, and it may be a disaster, so you're going to watch something go wrong here. So we're going to hit G, hit R, and we're going to squeeze this in. All right, and this is why we do our research. We're like, well, we know that when they probably unscrew this to pour it, that it's not going to be in the center like a salt shaker. It's going to be over here. Okay, it's going to warp this geometry. That's fine. As long as we let's look at this again. Just look at your notes. Look back and forth. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and we're going to hit G again. Hit W, and I'm going to pull. Oops, Apple Z. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit so we have a ridge. So sometimes when you want a nice sharp edge here, you want to just pop it up and have some extra geometry. So I hit G again, hit W, and I'm going to pull it up here. And we see a ridge is not that big. Actually, this is a good one. Well, that's just a modeling of a model. All right, so we're going to just ridge it, and then we're going to punch it. We're going to make a ridge and then go down. It looks like what they're kind of doing. All right, so we hit G, and I hit G again. Oops. So J, W, pull down. All right. Probably not the best modeling. We could probably model this, and also this hex nut was pretty cool. But I want to keep it all one just continuous thing. Now I want to make sure that I didn't screw that up. So we have this. Looks like I accidentally extruded and then pull it out. So sometimes you can just make sure there's no extra geometry. All right, so we're looking good. All right, we could. All right, so there's threads on the inside of it. Again, we're not going to do too crazy with this. This is just something to look at if someone rolled this over. All right, so we're almost done. We just need to rinse and repeat this over here. And so we're just going to eyeball it again. All right, make sure you're in object mode, and we're going to go right click hold, or shift, right click hold, insert edge loop tool. Actually, we're not going to do that. I'm sorry. We could have done that, but I do a marquee, hold everything, and you'll see everything is selected, and we want to deselect this middle, so we hold shift and marquee that. So we'll deselect it, but we have our bottom selected. The only reason we could have gone in here and extrude edges. I just like to get this all selected and extrude face. So I'm going to hold shift and right click hold, extrude. It is very similar to what you would do in other software, 3D software like 4D Cinema Max, and also 3D Studio Max, and also Blender. All right, so I hit G one more time, hit W, and I'm going to pull this down. Hit G and R, and this will squeeze it in. Maybe a little bit further in, and G, and then one, a little bit like that. All right, so we are done. And again, we're going to add maybe one more line. Go to here, object mode, insert. We're going to add just one more geometry here, right there, and maybe one right here. All right, so that way it has a hard lip there. We'll do that on the inside up here also. That looks good. Then we'll look on the other side here, and we'll add one right here. All right. All right. So it looks pretty good. So we'll probably stop right here. That looks pretty good. We can hide that image if we want, but we're going to soften the edges here in a second, but at the very end. But first thing we want to do is do increment and save. All right, so I'm going to stop here, and next we'll start on the UV mapping.